Guess who stepped in the room? Dressed in black band tees like a fucking monsoon. It's us. Columbia House Party.
That's the most aggressive intro we've had.
It's the first. I'm a slave to the gimmick, man.
That's fair. You're starting to take the tone of it too.
Yeah, I'm trying to take on Game's energy here. You know how rare it is to get Game on a track? Come on, I gotta bring that energy,
especially
too.
on this show.
Yeah, I also felt the need to set the tone.
Yeah,
like this episode's gonna be a little different. Unfortunately, the lyric is a lie. I'm not in a black band tee. Jake is though.
I am.
Jake's always in a black band tee.
Actually, I purged my clothes yesterday to get rid of a lot of my black band tees, which was a hard day.
Have anything left?
Yeah, because I bought a bunch of new non-band t-shirts.
There you go.
I'm trying to like dress like a 31-year-old and not a 19-year-old.
Yes.
More.
Me being an adult, I've progressed on from nothing but black band tees. I'm wearing a black wrestling t-shirt.
Yes, that's true.
Zack Sabre Jr.
It's better.
I'd say vote labor here, but that didn't work out that well.
Still do it though.
Yes, absolutely. Zack Sabre Jr., wrestler of the left. Neither of us in a Travis Barker shirt. Neither of us in a Game shirt. Neither of us in a Lil Wayne shirt.
There's so many shirts we could have worn for this episode that I don't own.
Dozens of people on the album we're talking about today. I don't know. I would like a Lil Wayne shirt. There is an old picture of me. I posted an Instagram throwback last year maybe of the time that I lost like 60 pounds really unhealthily over the course of like a year. And there's a before and after of me really fat and me unrecognizably skinny in a Free Wheezy t-shirt. Yeah. Don't have that t-shirt still. Also, it would come down to my belly button.
Still.
If that.
Still, though.
Not because I've gotten chubby, because I've gotten so swole, obviously.
The sentiment is still there.
Also not black. It's white.
Oh.
So it doesn't fit the opening lyric anyway.
Oh, well. Also, neither of us are dressed in black diamonds, so.
Yes.
Regardless of shirt. Yeah. I feel like there's not a lot of diamonds in our repertoire.
Not a lot. We're not doing a lot to put us on the level of 2011 Game.
No,
at this point.
No, I don't think that's not a place I'll ever reach. I think.
Speaking of 2011, today's episode
is very 2011.
Plus 44 being a side project of Mark Hoppus and Travis Barker. During the time there was a hiatus and Tom DeLonge was working on Angels and Airwaves. That episode was fun to dig into, but the entire episode was framed around Mark and Tom. Mark versus Tom. Mark or Tom. Does Mark need Tom? Does Tom need Mark? There's a third person in that band who has the highest value over replacement player in that entire band. Yes. The fact that both singers had side projects with Travis Barker that were moderately good and moderately successful, and the fact that Blink really took off when they added Travis Barker suggests to me that Travis Barker is the most valuable member of that team.
So today we're talking about Scott Rayner's solo album.
Yes. This episode will, to get it out of the way at the start, it's going to be a little off the usual pattern. Not only is this out of genre a little bit, but we're going to use the album to kind of just talk about Travis Barker for an episode. He's endlessly interesting. He's one of the most popular people in punk music and in hip hop music. He seems like a nice guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've at this point, we can't, you don't trust your idols at all.
But literally never.
Never. But I like Travis Barker.
He seems like a guy who's just like, I'm really good and I can make lots of money with my friends.
And that's the thing. We talk about his value to Blink-182 and how Blink-182 maybe doesn't work quite as well without Travis's unbelievable drumming, not only lifting the tracks, but pushing Mark and Tom as musicians as well when they started out as not amazing guitarists and not a particularly strong bassist.
Yeah, I think Tom especially. Like Tom is whether or not you want to call him, I don't know really whether to call him a good guitarist. I definitely think he's an interesting musician.
Yeah, and I think that Travis being Travis and being one of the best drummers in the world as Blink-182 was on the come up really pushed them. I think that's an important part of not only Blink's history, but because it's Blink's history, the entire history of pop punk.
Yes.
So Travis Barker, his value to that genre and his value to that band is up there. Like I think you put him with the lead singers of Blink-182 and Billy Joe Armstrong and a couple other people as some of the most important people in pop punk. But Travis's skill set went well beyond just being the world's best pop punk drummer. His skill set ranges into jazzier stuff. It ranges into R&B. It ranges into hip hop. Ranges into ska.
Hell yeah.
Ranges into whatever you would classify transplants as. I'm still not sure after all this time. Travis Barker can do pretty much whatever. He could do so much on the drums, in fact, that at one point he decided, you know what? I'm going to do a solo album as a drummer. Today, we're talking about the ambitious solo project from the drummer of Blink-182, the Aquabats, Transplants, and more. An unlikely connection of hip-hop and rock that seemed more suited for the early 2000s at first blush. Travis Barker's 2011 side project showed that good high-energy music can reach across genres and that rap rock isn't dead or wasn't just quite yet at that time. Today, we're discussing Give the Drummer Some.
Travis Barker, let's go. Lil Jon, Yellow Wall, let's go. Twister, and my homeboy, Busta Rhymes. Holla at 'em.
Before I take another minute just to give everybody a movie never seen a hitter with another. Let me get up everybody that be moving with. On your mark, so get ready.
Let's go.
Wow. Okay, here we go again. You see the way I'm blowing in. I'm like a mangling the way that I be mangling the beat. They call me Dracula. Then they see the going in. Wow. Everybody know that I'm a coming, I'm a go. Then I gotta do what I be coming in and doing body to beat. They let the baby giving them a show. Keys to the ignition and step on the gas.
Let's go.
And bust a bottle and pour me a shot in my glass.
Let's go.
Where we at? Where we at? Where we at? We back up in the building and we coming with a sculpture. Y'all already know who it is. It's Busta and Travis Barker. Back to the beat, we gotta go. Hit you with the fire trust. Everybody better know that we about to let it blow. And we gotta get it, yo. Everybody, if you're really with me,
Let's go. Hey, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Hey, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Hey, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Hey, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Hey, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Hey, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Hey, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Hey, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. 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 Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go.
We talked on our one of our bonus episodes about the nature of guilty pleasures and whether or not we think they're a thing. I don't think they're a thing. I do sort of feel a little guilty about how much I like this record, though.
No, I think it's good. It's a nice snapshot of the like turn of the decade
Yeah.
and where everything was at that point. And we're going to get into one person who was even more responsible for that than Travis Barker, maybe. That track is not it's a good introduction into what the album is, not a great track to judge the quality of the album off of. The idea of...
I mean, that song's also weird on this record because there's not a lot of drumming on it.
Yeah.
The whole thing of this
He does go crazy at the end.
Yes. But it's just like the whole thing is this is like putting Travis's drums on your hip hop tracks. Here's some drums.
But he also produced all of these. We're going to get into that this is more than just a flex as to Travis's ability to make rap songs more interesting with drumming. So why we chose this one, I've always just been fascinated by Travis Barker as kind of a figure and an artist. How much everyone loves Travis Barker. Again, don't trust your heroes, but everyone seems to think the world of Travis Barker. It's also like this interesting look at the 2010-11 kind of renaissance is the wrong word, but like if rap rock was like rap rock in the late 90s, early 2000s, if you're talking like Limp Bizkit, Kid Rock, the Linkin Park Jay-Z Collision Course, like that had a big moment where like, I don't know if you'd even classify it as rap rock or just like alternative, like hard alternative. I don't know what that stuff gets classified as. Butt rock?
Butt rock.
Yeah. That had a moment as like the biggest genre.
Oh my God. Like, that Limp Bizkit record sold like crazy.
That was presumed dead. And this is not the same, but this is also around the same time that Lil Wayne was so hot that he heat checked wearing an electric guitar on stage for the entirety.
Wearing is the correct way to say
He played
this.
like 3 chords over an entire concert wearing an electric guitar the whole time. He also released Rebirth, which is basically like a rap rock album. And he continually referred to himself as a rock star.
It seems to me that rap rock sort of every 10 years, it kind of rears its head again. Like you can go back further to like the early 90s with Rage, and then obviously the Bizkit years, and then this period now of Barker.
And now like Full Blown Meltdown by Pup is a rap rock song.
Yes. Also on a ska album, which is weird.
Yeah.
But,
weird place for it.
But like Denzel Curry has a lot of like rap rock sound.
Oh,
to him.
Denzel's Rage cover?
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. But like, I feel like
I love Denzel.
And also now we're getting those think pieces on like, is it time to reevaluate the rap rock
Even
era?
like Run the Jewels is not that far off.
No, it's not at all.
And like those albums are way better than a standard rap rock album, but like sonically, it's not that far off.
No.
It's not that different. It's just way better.
And then you can go back even further if you want to go back to like the 80s when you have like Aerosmith and Run DMC. Cypress Hill. Like I feel like it is a genre that is never going to have the staying power to consistently dominate either side Like it's never going to dominate hip hop. It's never going to dominate rock. But every like 10 years, it seems like there's a hit or two. And everyone's kind of like, oh yeah, rap rock.
Yeah. And Travis Barker was at the center of that. This was basically the ultimate heat check of like Travis Barker, like, yeah, Blink-182, Transplants,
I think
Aquabats.
Lil Wayne still holds the record for ultimate heat check.
Yes, except Travis Barker's at least caught rim. Like Travis Barker, even if you don't like Give the Drummer Some, Travis Barker's is like the Nick Young shot where he turns around and it just rims out. Lil Wayne's is more like the Carlton Banks shot.
Yeah, it's just like out of the gym entirely.
Yes. I'm so sad that we're not doing a Lil Wayne rebirth
I know.
yet.
I mean, we could.
Obviously, on this podcast, we're going to do occasionally albums that we don't like that much, or not don't like, but like we disagree on. That one might be below the threshold where we're like,
we'll put that one on Patreon.
Yeah. They're just like, Lil Wayne is such an interesting figure of that period. Like really that whole like 2004 to 2014 period, really, that it would be kind of a disservice to Lil Wayne to do
only
Rebirth
cover
instead
Rebirth.
But Travis Barker's Heat Check hit a little bit more. This has nothing to do with the album, but in researching this and going through Travis Barker's memoir, he had a Nightmare Before Christmas themed wedding.
What?
For his first wedding.
Really?
This is my guy.
Huh.
Of course I love Travis Barker.
Yeah.
Of course.
Give me that Danny Elfman energy all day.
God.
We'll do Oingo Boingo one day.
Oh, no. High billing on the Coachella.
Yeah, because Danny Elfman rules. I would be way more into going to see Danny Elfman at Coachella if he was just playing Oingo Boingo songs and not like his compositions, which I'm sure is what he's doing.
Yeah. We're not talking about Oingo Boingo today. We're going to talk about the Travis Barker solo album.
I'm always talking about Oingo Boingo.
I'm not. I'm talking about Travis Barker after this. All right, so by now, I mean, if you're a listener of this podcast, you know Blink-182's history. To give you a little Travis Barker background, at the age of 4, Travis Barker is given a drum kit. It's the same drum kit he uses until age 15.
Wow.
That's a long time to get used to one drum.
It's a lot of like, also like physically, like you grow a lot from 4 to 15. I've heard. I didn't, but like people of normal height do. So I feel like that's you have to move that around a lot, I feel.
Yeah. Also, I'm sure if you're a parent and you're getting your kid a drum set, you think of that a little bit. Like it's kind of like with sports equipment, you get something that they can grow into, maybe.
Yeah.
So you get like the years it's too big, the years it fits, and then the years it's too small before you have to upgrade.
Can't imagine being like, you know what, I'm going to get my 4-year-old a drum kit.
It's wild. His mom was a huge influence. She died right before he began high school and had strongly encouraged him to chase his dream of making music, which he already had at a very young age. He was taught a range of styles by a drum teacher with a jazz background. Full disclosure, there's a lot of Travis Barker stuff on the internet as you're researching stuff like this that is cited poorly. I did my best to go through his memoir and verify all of that stuff. So if I'm not citing the source on something, it's very likely from his memoir, which you could get at the Toronto Public Library.
Yeah, go get a library card.
But yeah, if you want to read the Travis Barker memoir for more background on him. Anyway, as he told CBS recently, his first hero was Animal from the Muppets.
Perfect. That makes sense, actually.
It does. Not only did Travis play the drums, though, he also played the trumpet, played the piano, sang in choir.
Wow.
That level of versatility, even though he doesn't play the trumpet or sing on most of his projects, that versatility comes up. That range of styles comes up. He told Ultimate Guitar in 2006, quote, I always migrated back to drums, though. That was the one thing that kind of felt like I was connected to and I could kind of understand. I could express myself better through my drums than I could anything else. That doesn't mean that the trumpet didn't play a part. If you are someone who likes the trumpet, you might naturally find some overlap with someone like Chad Larson, who Travis Barker met at on the Laguna Beach punk scene, and who he then joined Chad Larson's project, the Aquabats, which Jake...
I'm not used to hearing Chad Larson's real name.
Oh yeah, what does he go by in the Aquabats?
I think he's MC Bat Commander.
Okay, so Travis in Aquabats goes by Baron Von Tito.
Yes.
In Joe Schumann's book, Blink-182, The Bands, The Breakdown, and The Return, Travis reveals that nobody can remember where Baron Von Tito came from as a name. So at this point...
I'm sorry. Chad Larson is Crash McLarson.
Crash McLarson. Sorry, I will refer to him as Crash McLarson from here on out. So the Baron Von Tito meets Crash McLarson while the Baron Von Tito is working as a garbage man, sleeping on couches. Basically, just finding gigs here and there. He plays with Mick Larson a little bit, and then eventually is asked to be a fill-in for the Aquabats, and then sticks around for an entire album, The Fury of the Aquabats.
I've got a small friend who has a fat friend who had a big friend who gave birth to many friends with our flashlights to the sky. We waited for them to land. I've got two tall friends who know my small friend who seem to have a problem with you. They got Roman candles, bottle rockets for the vandals who cover the lockers in blue. We're on our way, here we go. We're gonna take over, set it off one last time. Here we come again. All systems go. Soon the world will know the fury of attack. Feel the wrath of the super rat, a super rat. All systems go. Soon the world will know the fury of attack. Feel the wrath of the super rat, super rat, super rat. All systems go as we step into the octagon. Feel the wrath of mission code name applesauce, applesauce, applesauce. Super rat.
When we discussed at the end of the Plus 44 episode that Mark Hoppus had kicked around the idea of a side projects tour with all of their side projects basically opening for Blink-182, we need to add the Aquabats to that bill.
If you've never seen the Aquabats live, it's an experience. There's people in costumes. They fight each other.
They're in costumes too, aren't they?
They're always.
Okay.
They're the Aquabats. They're the superhero team.
I will say this.
Your average, ordinary superhero rock and roll band.
I don't know that I would see the Aquabats now, but if Travis Barker
Oh, yeah.
were playing with the Aquabats,
I think they did a show together not too long ago as like an anniversary thing of that album where he played with them.
when this album came out, I had in my head that I would love to see Travis Barker play like a small venue solo show. It'd be cool. I don't know if it would be possible though when you listen to this album, like just whether he could do it or not.
The sampling, I feel like you could.
Yeah,
Just like
you would have to play the
tracks
track.
queued up. Yeah.
So after one album with the Aquabats, Travis Barker is asked to join Blink-182. He amicably leaves the Aquabats because he got asked to join fucking Blink-182. The Aquabats remember him, and this is again in Joe Schumann's History of Blink-182 book. The Aquabats saw him rehearsing to play with Blink-182 and knew in that moment that that was the band he belonged in and kind of saw the writing on the wall. Barker, we've discussed, he pushes Tom and Mark. He told Ultimate Guitar in 2006 that during the Blink hiatus and during the writing of Plus 44, I immediately started playing drums with DJ AM. We have this routine that we do. I immediately start producing beats and stuff with like marching snares and quints and just kind of flipping it. I just started expressing myself. Blink was such a monster. We'd make a record and we'd tour for 2 years and we wouldn't see anything. Wouldn't see home. We wouldn't see our babies. It was crazy. With this, it was kind of like, wow, I should kind of like really sit down and think, what do I really want to do? How do I want to express myself as a drummer? What makes me happy right now? And that's kind of what I did. So at this point, Travis kind of, while still working with Blink-182 and Plus 44 and the Transplants, is kind of trying to find his own lane creatively as well. While he said that writing with Hoppus had great chemistry and, quote, feels like home, he pretty obviously wanted to try some new stuff. Travis Barker coming up was more of a hip hop fan than a rock fan.
And it's interesting. You hear it, I think, the most on Neighborhoods and the self-titled Blink record, where you can really hear that Travis is not 100% just this pop punk drummer or ska drummer, which is kind of in the same world. You can just tell there's more to this guy before we knew any of this stuff about him. When listening to those records and be like, oh, maybe he should be doing something else.
And not only is he this incredible and multi-talented drummer just on a drum kit, while they were working on the Plus 44 album, because he had a newborn and because they were recording it in these small spaces and had to keep it quiet, he learned a lot of keyboard, triton, drum programming. And then he says things like, he takes, as he's writing and thinking creatively, he takes inspiration from skateboarding and surfing. And he's like, I do something on my skateboard and then think of a way that could translate to the drums. He's a very, very interesting dude like that. So while he is kind of working on this stuff and he's gained some notoriety through Blink-182, Diddy asks him to be in the Bad Boys for Life video. He'd been a rap fan before this. He liked a lot of the acts that were associated around Diddy and going to be in the video. So he does it, and he makes a ton of connections. He's got guys like Method Man being like, yo, we should get in the studio together. As that stuff is heating up, Jerry Finn connects him with Tim Armstrong of Rancid. He joins Transplants. That's sometimes concurrent to Blink, sometimes when they're off. Transplants always worked around Blink's schedule. So not only is there Blink, not only is there Travis trying to find his way with the solo stuff, not only is there Plus 44, there's also this, Travis in Transplants.
Take a look around, baby. Yeah, my whole crew's ugly, but we still got the most game, the most money, the most shows, the most honeys. It's so funny how you hate my fucking guts, but at the same time love me. From the Lincoln to the Gold to the lowrider bike, I always get you hate it, but you know that you like. What you see is what you get, nothing more, nothing less. I'm killing, smoking chronic while you're choking on stress. Talk hands in the air, let me see you. Fuck you. Talk hands in the air, let me see you. Fuck you.
I think to our earlier discussion about Travis Barker's value over a replacement player, Transplants can't get off the ground without Travis Barker.
Absolutely not. Oh my God.
It's just not a thing.
No.
I liked that album a lot when it came out, the first
I
Transplants
think a
album.
lot. I mean, like Diamonds and Guns was a huge hit.
Even Talk Hands in the Air, that track is a good track, but the rest of the album does not hold up super well. So at this point, the cult of Travis Barker is kind of growing a little bit. Rolling Stone refers to him as, quote, punk's first superstar drummer. That's a take on Ginger Barker having been called rock's first superstar drummer in the 60s and 70s. In a review of Transplants, Rolling Stone says that Travis single-handedly drags his old school bandmates into the future, which I don't know if that's completely true because that was kind of a sound of the moment band as well.
But I mean, I know what they mean. It's like what I was just kind of saying before about the Southside record. Like those songs are more interesting because of Barker's more interesting drumming. If you just have your standard like 4/4 keep the tempo beat behind a lot of those songs, they're still good songs, which is like, oh, here's a pop punk song. Okay.
And more to the point of this episode, working with Transplants once again introduced Travis to some new techniques and some new perspectives. He told Ultimate Guitar, with Transplants, my role as a drummer, I had two 808s and I had crazy samples. We were going crazy. That's different. I had to be a different drummer. It wouldn't work if I just went up there and played double time punk rock music, which is exactly to your point. But again, Travis is getting more experience with samples and 808s and different ways of approaching creating the foundation for music that someone else is just going to sing, or in that case, yell over. Travis starts going through what, because of the reality show, is a fairly public divorce. That's kind of the first side railing of Travis's extension into solo work. It led to a lot of personal problems for him. He had issues with marijuana, alcohol, and painkillers. By 2007, he full on was addicted to painkillers. He broke his arm during the video shoot for Plus 44s when your heart stops beating. Basically, things were just kind of like falling apart, and he was forced to take some time off the Plus 44 tour. During that time off, once his arm was a little better, he began releasing some remixes of popular hip hop songs. So at this time, he's also working with other artists to help them with their own beats and loops. He's working on a couple of different side projects that do or don't get off the ground. And it's his remix to Soulja Boy's Crank That Soulja Boy, a huge song.
Classic in its own right.
Yes, I saw Soulja Boy, by the way.
Really?
With Lil Wayne and Young Jeezy in 2009 at the Molson Amphitheater.
Huh.
Yeah.
How was
Drake
that?
was supposed to, that was crazy because Drake was supposed to be on that tour, and that's when Drake tore his ACL.
Oh.
You know, as he said on the one lyric, had to Derrick Rose the knee up before I get the re-up.
Fun fact, Drake introduced me to Soulja Boy's music.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. So Crank That Soulja Boy is an enormous song. There's a dance. It's one of the first like viral songs.
Yeah.
Really. And then Travis Barker's friend posts like a grainy YouTube video of Travis Barker drumming over it, which also goes viral with millions of views.
This is a Travis Barker production.
Soulja Boy, tell. Hey, I got this new dance for y'all called the Soulja Boy. You gotta punch, then crank back 3 times from left to right. Soulja Boy, watch me crank it, watch me roll. spread, now watch me jump. Jocking on them haters, man. When I do that, soldier boy, I lean to the left and crack that thing like. I'm jocking on you. And if we get the fight, then I'm cocking on you. You catch me at your local party, yes, I crack it every day. Haters get mad, cause I got me some baby, mate. Soldier boy, I really why me crank it, why me roll? Why me crank that soldier boy, that Superman, that why me crank that soldier, 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 why soldier boy, I really why me crank it, why me roll? Why me crank that soldier boy, that Superman, that why me crank that soldier, 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 why.
This is a Travis Barker production.
It's interesting listening to that, and like obviously we'll get into this more as we dig into the album proper, but sort of Travis's evolution from literally just like, oh, here's some drumming over a hip hop song, to like, here's some drumming over a hip hop song, but also here's these interesting samples and drum loops over a hip hop song that's not just a rap rock song.
For sure. And I think originally this is kind of what Travis's vision was. It was going to be a lot of his remixes of hip hop songs, but because he'd worked with so many people and had so many connections, it built up to more than that. There was a second stopping point to Travis Barker's solo work. It was a lot sadder even than him having some painkiller issue and breaking his arm. So he'd been playing with DJ AM on a side project that I don't know how to pronounce, but it's TRV $DJ AM. Basically, DJ AM was DJing classics and Travis Barker added his own live drums to them. That actually got popular enough that they performed at the 2008 MTV MTV Video Music Awards.
Oh, yeah.
Not the movie awards. That would make no sense. So in September 2008, they had played a show in South Carolina and they were flying back to Van Nuys. Travis Barker, who has always not loved flying and been afraid of it and believed, according to his memoir, for his entire life that he was going to die in a plane crash, which is why he doesn't like flying.
I get it. I also don't like flying, and I also am always concerned I'm going to die in a plane crash.
As this flight takes off, it overruns the runway, crashes through a fence, and then crashes and bursts into flames. 4 of the 6 people on board the aircraft died. DJ AM and Travis Barker were the only ones who survived. They were both left in critical condition, suffering from second and third degree burns. Travis ultimately spent 11 weeks in the hospital, undergoing 16 surgeries. He nearly had to have his foot amputated because they were running out of skin to graft to heal him up. It led to, understandably, a pretty dark time for Barker. He dealt with some PTSD afterwards. He told ABC News in 2015 that he was in so much pain at the time that he'd offer friends $1 million to kill him, which is the source of Joyce Manor's 2018 album title, $1 Million to Kill Me. And then, unfortunately, DJ AM, who had been one of Travis Barker's sober companions for a little while as Travis tried to get his stuff together, died a year later from accidental acute intoxication. That was obviously something I think everyone kind of remembers in 2009, that kind of shaking the music industry and having a lot of waves. So that the plane crash, once Travis healed up, was actually a big part of the impetus for a Blink reunion. It also helped Barker clean up those earlier issues. Once he was released from the hospital after those 11 or 12 weeks, he tried to avoid painkillers entirely. He went vegan just to like improve his overall health. I believe he went sober, but I couldn't find any evidence of whether that's still the case or whether it was.
I think I remember hearing that.
I definitely found things that said he did at the time. I just don't know if he still is. So I don't know if that was a short-term thing or whatever. Obviously, if you have feared flying your whole life and then get in a terrible, terrible plane crash, you are not going to fly anymore. So he now takes his own buses or boats if necessary.
There was a period of time, I think, on the Neighborhoods tour where he did not play shows in like Australia or the UK with Blink because he's like, I'm not flying, which is fair.
Yeah.
But now he boats?
Yeah, he has at least at some times. So he told the Toronto Sun in 2016, "You have to understand that right after the accident, man, I dealt with some really tasteless journalists who would ask things like, so how does it feel living through a plane crash when everyone else has died? I would walk out of interviews constantly. It wasn't something I could talk about. I watched 4 people die and I couldn't do anything about it. 65% of my body was burned and I wanted to commit suicide. I had to deal with that for so long that talking about it in the book, meaning his memoir, was nice because I could finally explain everything and get it out of my system. It was therapeutic for me. That's obviously a life-changing stretch. We've now, and all of this stuff that's happened, that's only like a 2-year span. Broken Arm, the painkiller addiction, the plane crash, and then shortly after that, DJ AM, one of his close friends passing away.
I feel like unfairly, in retrospect, unquestionably unfairly, Travis got sort of a lot of shit in the more hipster, whatever community you want, music community, because of all the tabloid stuff and the reality show and all that. And I remember around this time, just him being in the news constantly was just not that in any way that anyone was like, oh, it's a plane crash, who cares? Because I don't want to give that impression at all. But I do remember he was just, for a guy who was a drummer, he was sort of the face of Blink at this time in a way.
And even in the reality show, he was never this like bombastic reality character that most reality shows are. It was probably the most modern reality show has felt just like kind of a living documentary.
Yeah, it's like a look at what his life is.
Yeah, and there was clearly some of the like scripted elements of like, hey, we need some drama for this episode. We're gonna re-edit this, or like, hey, can you guys get in an argument today? I mean, they divorced not long after, so maybe some of that was
I feel like it's hard for a marriage to survive a reality show.
Anyway, Barker eventually gets back to a better place. Blink reunion obviously happens. So eventually, thankfully, Travis gets back to a better place physically and a better place mentally and health-wise. And he kind of picks up where he left off on the hip-hop front, where, he's still doing some remixes and he's still working with some musicians on their beats and their loops and things like that. And at this point, as I mentioned, his idea was originally to put an album of remixes out. And then he starts thinking, well, maybe I could put some new tracks together and self-produce it. He told Drum Magazine, I can do beats all day long, and that's something that's been moving me. I've never heard of a drummer servicing beats to people like that, getting them to my hip-hop friends. And then as he told Spin in 2019, I was happily confused. I never wanted to listen to one style of music. To me, it was like eating the same meal every day or wearing the same clothes. So he has all these kind of original ideas floating around. He decides, I'm not going to just remix. I'm going to do these like kind of start to finish, farm to table, all these tracks myself. Because of the accident and the side projects that he worked this around, takes over 2 years to put this together. He said he sometimes sat with tracks for like 6 months to play around with them and make sure they're good. Like he wanted to, when he finished a track, he wanted to sit with it a while and make sure he still liked it after a little bit.
I get the sense like as a drummer and as a technical drummer, he must be quite a tinkerer when it comes to these kind of things. Like I could see a guy like him self-producing these tracks and being like, oh, that one snare hit's not right. I gotta tweak that and make sure that's right.
Probably the most unique, not most unique, that's a binary word. The unique thing about his writing process for this, Blink did a tour in Europe. He took 6 days to cross the Atlantic by boat. He brought a drum kit and a MIDI studio with him, as he told Music Radar in 2011. So he spent that time working on the album. And then also while he was on tour with Blink, he would set up in the backstage rehearsal room and just create beats. And then he'd send them around to the rappers that he wanted on these tracks and like, hey, get me a verse back. Here's the beat. Send it back. As he told Music Radar in 2011, it was a very unique way to make a record, but I'm really happy with how everything turned out. Doing it in stages wasn't planned. It was really out of necessity. It was a good outlet for me while I was on the road. You have so much downtime on tour, so you may as well do something creative. He has since referred to it as his little project. It was a ton of work.
Yeah.
There are a billion features on this, but really, because not only was it killing downtime, it was such a passion project for him. He told Drum Magazine, I basically have made a bunch of music with all my favorite MCs.
I mean, if you have the connections and you have the ability, why not?
So to hear Barker tell it, he did everything but sing or rap on the album. That's not entirely true. He has some guest guitar spots. Tom Morello and Slash are both on the album as guitarists.
Slash is sure on this album.
He sure is. So is Tom Morello on maybe the best track on the album.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much it. He's doing all this stuff for other rappers. He's made all these friends. He's like, you know what? I'm doing your songs. Kick me a verse. Let's go. This was all, simultaneous to Neighborhoods and the touring. So basically, where he sets up this album, while he's doing media for it and stuff like that, he says, quote, this is the other side of Travis we haven't seen. So you know him as a pop punk drummer, you know him as a ska drummer and a transplants drummer. And this is the other part of Travis that you maybe only know from YouTube videos and YouTube covers. We will get into Give the Drummer Some after this. So the actual album, Barker says, is no one genre. It's mostly hip hop and R&B, rap rock, if you
Yeah,
will.
I saw that quote too, and I was like, I see what you're saying about that, but it's rap rock.
And you're drawing a line between, like, if it is different genres, you're drawing a line between, like, rap rock, standard rap, skate rap, or skate
Yeah, I
punk,
think
even
you're
like with the
splitting it.
Lupe verses.
I think you're splitting hairs a little bit on.
Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong, there is a huge difference between the Cool Kids and Cypress Hill and Lil Jon.
Yeah.
Those are different styles under the same umbrella, not to get all our emo tree here.
But I mean, like, if Barker's producing it, Barker has his vision for it and his sound, and this is clearly that.
Yes. Now, this album includes, I'm going to take a deep breath here. I'm going to list off everyone featured on this album.
Oh boy.
Because we're not getting into every song individually. But if you hear a name that you like, you might want to go check out that track. Give the Drummer Some features. Lil Wayne, Game, Rick Ross, Swizz Beatz, Pharrell, Lupe Fiasco, RZA, Raekwon, Tom Morello, Snoop Dogg, Ludacris, E40, Dev, The Cool Kids, Slaughterhouse, Yellow Wolf, Twista, Busta Rhymes, Lil Jon, Transplants, Slash, Kid Cudi, Tech Nine, Bun B, Beanie Siegel, Kobe, Cypress Hill, and then on bonus tracks, Corey Taylor of Slipknot, Paul Wall, J-Rock, Corrupt, Clips, and Steve Aoki.
I can't believe they cut the Corey Taylor song.
It's bad.
It's really bad. It's just like, it feels like such a natural fit for this project.
I know. And I feel like Corey Taylor was maybe torn between doing Stone Sour Corey Taylor and Slipknot Corey Taylor. And they just...
Yeah. Yeah.
So look, that's a lot of features, which I think highlights just how clunky the album is in spots. It's just a lot.
Yeah. I feel like this is definitely an album that, to Travis's credit, he took all of his ideas and put them all on the record. And we've seen that a couple times in this show in the course of albums we talked about. And I think it happens whenever any artist is like, here's my passion project. Here's all my ideas. Usually they don't all work, and that's fine. But I personally would rather hear a guy like Travis Barker throw all his ideas at the wall. And even if they don't work, at least they're interesting in their failures.
Yeah. And it's 12 songs and 51 minutes. So it's not like crazy long. That's without the couple of bonus tracks, but it's not crazy long. It's just like, it's a little dense if this isn't exactly your thing.
But I would say, because of the structure of this album being sort of a mixtape of sorts, it's an easy record to pick and choose the songs you want to hear. Because there's no cohesion to begin with. So it's not like, oh, I can't listen to that song without that song. It's just, you can pick the good ones and kind of just leave the rest.
I also think the enormity of features, it's an important feature of the album because it kind of gives you this stamp of, everyone loves Travis. Everyone was excited to work on this. Like, it's a little overwhelming, but you do need to highlight the influence that and popularity of Travis Barker as a musician and as a dude. And I think that captures that. He told Music Radar in 2011, I'm really honored to have so many amazing artists on this record. Everybody I worked with is a friend and somebody I admire. So it's awesome to look at every track and remember what a great time we had. So, like,
I mean, fair enough.
Also, like, just for Travis Barker coming out of those couple of tough years, I'm just super happy for him that he got to do this. Now, let's get into a couple of the tracks. I don't want to get too deep in every track. A lot of what you run into, and this isn't a criticism, this is a good thing in terms of finding a song that you'll like on the album and picking it out. Most of the songs featuring rappers just feel like that one of those rappers' songs.
Yeah.
Just a little different. You have a Pharrell track that is a Pharrell track. The one that is maybe the best, I don't know, I don't want to say best, but it stands alone the best, as this could have been a song that was released as a single, or this could have been a song that existed as a Lil Wayne song, or a Swizz Beatz song, or a Travis Barker song, or whatever, is the first song on the album called Can the Drummer Get Some?
Boom, guess who stepped in the room? Draped in black diamonds like a fucking monsoon. Back from the dead, but they never found my killer. So I jumped up out the grave like Michael Jackson and Thriller. Iller than most MCs, cause I be killing the most MCs. Turn them to ghost MCs. Yeah, get a drummer some. It's the 32 spin when that all black Hummer run face off. Nicolas Cage with a gauge. I'm famous for killing rappers. My style, grenade, cook shit like Ray. The chef Raekwon, the beef filet mignon without the A1. Who walk like a pit bull? You, bitch, please. I eat your favorite rapper's heart out with a 16. Then hit the switch on something with big D's. Make money with rough riders, homie, that's what
is cheese. Can a drummer get some? 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 Can a drummer get? Can a drummer get? Can a drummer get? Can a drummer get some? 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 Can a drummer get? Can a drummer get? Can a drummer get? Can a drummer get some?
You want to talk about heat checks in the moment? That is like a pinnacle Lil Wayne verse.
Yeah.
Like, not only he's just like repronouncing words,
Yeah.
like LeBron James. He's talking about pee
Peeing.
and poo, which you wonder
Travis couldn't get too far of his wheelhouse.
Yeah, I was gonna say you wonder how Lil Wayne ended up touring with Blink-182 down the line. It's yeah.
The thing I like about that track, and I don't mean this ironically at all, I genuinely like about it, is when you turn on this record, that's the first song you hear, immediately you're like, cool, it's 2011.
Yeah. It's great. I mean, Game did not have, I mean, Game's still around, I guess, but like
It's
that
not
was
the same.
Game's moment. It's hard to overstate just how big Lil Wayne was at this time.
Oh,
Like,
and also like that guitar riff on that song is so that era of rap rock in a way that's just like the two chords just going back and forth
Yeah.
the whole track.
and to have Game, Lil Wayne, and Rick Ross and Swizz Beatz all on the same track is like, this is the DJ Khaled formula of I'm producing and I'm just going to throw so many of my friends that
Yeah.
are stars at it. You'll have no choice but to listen to because there's going to be something interesting on there for you.
From that respect, like just the level of celebrity, for lack of a better term, on this record, it's actually kind of fascinating that it wasn't bigger.
Yeah, I think it's because people probably had walls up about it. Like, oh, Travis
sure.
Barker doing a hip hop album, or like even the idea of just like a collaboration. Like, I don't think there are many collaboration albums that just like do
Take off.
crazy
Yeah,
well.
it's true.
It's such a Lil Wayne verse. Like, he ends that verse with, "And I, the rock star, will rock you bastards." Like, Lil Wayne is firmly in his, I'm not a rapper, I'm a rock star. I have transcended my genre and I'm the biggest rock star in the world right now. And he wasn't far off at the
He
time.
was huge.
This was probably the tail end of that. The Carter 3 was 2008.
Yeah.
This is 2011. Rebirth is somewhere in there, regrettably. Here's a great Lil Wayne anecdote.
Okay.
As Travis Barker told The Fader in 2019, they're in LA filming the video for this song. Everyone's on set. Lil Wayne pulls up in his bus. He basically shuts down the entire street. And then Lil Wayne's assistant goes up to Travis Barker and says, "Hey, bro, Wayne's not going to do his verse. He's not going to film his verse. Maybe he'll film the chorus." Travis is like, "What? What's up?" And the assistant says, "That was the old Wayne. You know, that was before he was locked up in Rikers, and that's not Wayne anymore. Wayne apparently now has issue with peeing on you peons for eons." So they're in full production mode on the video.
Oh my God.
Lil Wayne decided he doesn't like his verse anymore, so he re-records his verse and then pays for the song to get remixed, pays for the song to get remastered, and then a month later paid for the video crew to come out to Miami and film his part of the video.
So there's another version of that song then?
Apparently. I haven't heard it,
Interesting.
but Lil Wayne,
Man, money's fun.
I like that.
Having money just seems great. It's like, let's change it.
I changed my mind. I don't want to do that verse anymore. I'll pay for it all. I mean, good of Lil Wayne if he's gonna pull something creatively
yeah.
like that.
Yeah, at least he didn't make everyone else sort of suffer for it.
Yeah,
But
that's probably the most memorable song and like the most emblematic song.
yeah.
Like that's the song. If I wanted someone to know what this album was about and what it was like, that's the song I would use.
Well, to your point, every other song sounds like the artist song that Travis happened to produce and play on. That song sounds like a Travis Barker hip hop song, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, so after this, it goes into "If You Want To," which is like a jazzier song with
Song
Pharrell,
kicks ass.
Lupe
I
Fiasco.
love that. I love that song.
Lupe's rapping on "If You Want To" is maybe the sharpest rapping on the album. I like Lupe Fiasco a lot. I just loved that like short era of like skateboard rap.
Yeah.
So then there's the track with Snoop Dogg, E40, and Ludacris, which is, if you think that is the most 2011 track, they somehow got like a 2006 track on here with like, it starts out with Travis drumming and then it just completely drops off and it's like, oh, here's a Snoop Dogg verse.
It definitely sounds like a song that Snoop and Luda made together. Put
Yes.
it that way.
So yeah, it's all kind of rockier versions. You know, there's a skate punk track called Jump Down with the Cool Kids. More of the same. Like the Slaughterhouse song sounds like a Slaughterhouse song. I Have Lots of Time for Royce da 5'9". It's just a Slaughterhouse song with Travis drumming. The song with Tim Armstrong is just a Transplant song.
Yep.
The Kid Cudi
with
song.
Slash's Santana-ass guitar
Yes.
over it.
Yes, it's very funny. That's what's it? That's called Saturday Night.
Yeah.
It's a transplant song with Slash on it.
Yes,
It's a Slash as Santana.
Carlos Santana.
It closes with a Cypress Hill song, which sounds just like a Cypress Hill song, and I imagine must have been so fucking cool for Travis to get to do
It also
song with Cypress Hill.
kind of rules.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great closer too, like in terms of bookending this album with what it should be. I really like the Kid Cudi track.
Mhm.
It sounds like an early Kid Cudi track before Kid Cudi got, expanded his sound or tried some new things. The one other song that I think is a unique track because it's not really a rock version of what these guys would normally do is called Carry It. It's with RZA and Raekwon and Tom Morello of Rage.
My Uzi weigh a ton, son, carry it. My Uzi weigh a ton, son, carry it. My Uzi weigh a ton, son, carry it. Ton, son, carry it. Ton, son, carry it. Check his vital signs. Strike his vital nerve through a vital curve. The rhyme tempest, like lightning bolts being thrown down from Mount Olympus. Beat on your head like a Travis Barker symbol. Trash, I splash beyond measurements. I turn you back to a gas. Arrest your development, overthrow your whole settlement. This is beat embellishment. Burn the house to its Hansel and Gretel with unorthodox sly rhyming fox. Root killer be appear on your body like the box. Keep rivalries like Yankees and the Red Sox. I'd rather see it on the boardwalk than see it on the block, nigga. My Uzi weigh a ton, son, carry it. Chocolate bunny on the run, catch and marry it. Sword in my hand, watch me parry it. The weight of the truth can any man carry it. My Uzi weigh a ton, son, carry it. My Uzi weigh a ton, son, carry it. My Uzi weigh a ton, son, carry it. Ton, son, carry it. Ton, son, carry it. Ton, son, carry it. My Uzi weigh a ton, son, carry it. My Uzi weigh a ton, son, carry it. Ton, son, carry it. Ton, son, carry it.
So I love RZA.
Is there a butt coming?
No,
Oh, okay.
no, he can do no wrong.
Because that song rules.
Yeah, and like doing the fact that obviously he did Wu-Tang and he did some of his stuff on his own, and then like did the music for Afro Samurai, and also
like,
got into some acting.
Works a lot with like kung fu guys now. And
Yeah.
Is in John Wick.
Yeah, he's the best.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite.
What's his
hip-hop
movie?
characters.
Man with the Iron Fists or something?
Have you seen Afro Samurai before?
No, I know of it, but I've not actually seen it.
So it's a cool cartoon series drawn in kind of like the Boondocks anime style, and he does all the music for it.
Oh, cool.
Talib Kweli's on it. It's great. Who else? Oh yeah, Q-Tip's on it.
He was in that new the Jim Jarmusch zombie movie that I haven't seen yet. Dead Don't Die.
Interesting.
Riz is an extremely interesting guy.
It's funny. I think back to the Chappelle Show sketch, The Racial Draft, where they're up there and they're like, yeah, we've always been into the kung fu. And it's like, yeah, actually.
He's like a huge into it now.
Yeah, Afro Samurai rules. You should watch it.
I will. I've heard nothing but good things about it.
Now, that verse is just like peak RZA. There's no way something with just so much going on there could ever be a freestyle, but I would really like... I would like to believe that he just like came up with all that stuff like just off the cuff. He's like, yeah, I'm going to reference Buzz Lightyear, Yosemite Sam, and Emily Dickinson.
It's just a crazy
in the
freestyle.
same verse. Just like, let's go. That's a wild verse.
Yeah.
That's really
It's a great song. It's probably my favorite song on the record.
The other song that's probably worth talking about is the one we led off with called Let's Go that we kind of joked about a little bit. Lil Jon is like, he's the part of this album and that era of rap that I think holds up the least. It's just like, it's such a moment thing, and
I think Lil Jon would be really hard to explain to someone today who had never heard of Lil Jon. It's like, so he just yells yeah and his name over other people's songs, like,
and DJs
and it's like, yeah, it's kind of it.
Now the rest of that song, I do dig the idea of you have Busta Rhymes, Twista, and Yellow Wolf, who are 3 of the fastest rappers ever. My only issue with it is that Barker's drum work doesn't really go off until the very end once those guys stop rapping, and it's kind of like like the Ludacris song where it just becomes almost a medley of
Seems a lot of these songs are. I don't know if Travis didn't want to step on these guys' toes,
I would
which
imagine
is fair,
so, yeah.
but like a lot of these songs seem to like once the rapping is over, it's time for Travis to play the drums. I like this album. I don't have like a lot of negative things to say about it, but I feel like this album could have been taken to another level had he sort of incorporated his drumming with the rapping more.
Yeah, like the Soulja Boy example.
Yeah, exactly.
The reason I would assume that he didn't is because this was an album as much about him producing as well, right? So he probably didn't want to overstep. For one, I'm sure he didn't want to get back verses from his friends and then drum over top of them.
I mean, like, how do you say to RZA, like, hey, man, great rapping, but I'm going to put a bunch of drums over it.
Yeah, when you say the Sycamore, I'm going to just like come in heavy over top of that. But no, and I think a part of this was probably him having so many ideas, to your point earlier, that he wanted to show off a little bit that he could do different things.
Yeah.
And he wanted to be able to take a back seat and just produce a Cool Kid song or produce a Pharrell song.
And especially on the production side, like, I think there is a lot of like artistic value and a lot of talent to be shown off from the stuff that you don't necessarily see or hear, I guess.
So this album debuted at number 9 on the US
Really?
Billboard 200. Yes. Peaked at number 2 on the top R&B and hip hop charts and the top rap charts. It didn't really get a ton of run beyond that. I think it was a cool momentary thing. It got mixed reviews, as you might expect. On Metacritic, Metascore, it has a score of 64 across 8 critic reviews. It actually just didn't get reviewed a ton.
I don't even know how you review this album, though. It's so disjointed. Like, it's just reviewing a bunch of singles put together.
This is what I mean. So the Kerrang gave it 6 out of 10, which is not bad. It cited the lack of continuity, basically dragging down Barker's drumming, which was really good, but there's no like cohesive idea, right? There's no through line, there's no narrative thread, or even like sound wise, there's no thread. It's just a bunch of songs thrown out. So that got it some criticism, somewhat surprisingly to me, but maybe not given the quality of the features on there. Rap Reviews, DJ Booth, and Hip Hop DX all gave it 7 out of 10. I think that maybe what that suggests and those receptions suggest is that while the sound of this album is very 2011, the idea of putting together a collection like this actually fits the streaming era really well, where people could pick songs and you could release all 12 and then kind of let the audience self-select, like that. If you had whatever the version of Lil Wayne, Game, and Rick Ross on a Travis Barker song is now, it's like, yeah, that would stream like crazy.
Yeah, and go viral or whatever.
Yeah. So I think it's weirdly a little ahead of its time in terms of a package that you'd want to release to the audience, and then just a little after its time in terms of what the sound actually is with that kind of rap rock sound. This is not related to the album, but Rolling Stone in 2016 did their top 100 drummers of all time, and Barker was 99th.
I mean, if we could do a whole episode of me disagreeing with Rolling Stone.
That's about 90 to 95 spots too low. So coming out of this, Barker has basically just continued on being Travis Barker. Blink still exists. He's now, I think, the primary drummer for Goldfinger.
Is he?
Yeah, he drums with them when
Darren's not in the band?
No, or at least like he's done some stuff with them. He's listed as a current member. I don't know what the trade-off is around what Blink's doing.
I can't pretend I've listened to Goldfinger much in the last decade.
Honestly, and that sounds like poor research, but if you go on Travis's Wikipedia page and look at all the projects he's been a part of, it's really hard to tell where Travis is at any given time. Like Blink-182 is still a big band that tours a bunch.
They sell out arenas like every day.
And he's also in Goldfinger. He's also done EPs and collaboration albums with Yellow Wolf, Asher Roth, Suicide Boys, O3 Greedo. He's done production work with Kanye West, Ghostmane. He produced for Lil Nas X on Lil Nas X's debut. He even is still doing some of his just YouTube remixes, like this song, Falling Down by Lil Peep. Now, there's an unfortunate wrinkle in that song and that XXX is on it. That is probably a conversation of its own. Travis's quote, when asked about it, was not super woke or enlightened. So let's just leave that part. I include it mostly to show that Travis is still doing that, and because I'm going to keep bringing Lil Peep up on this podcast.
Yeah.
We do a Lil Peep episode.
If you had Travis Barker money, wouldn't you just keep doing the projects you want to do anyway?
Probably. I have no money and I keep just taking on too many
well,
projects.
yeah, exactly.
Obviously, Travis Barker is doing all these things. Blink 182 is still very much a thing. When he released his memoir, doing the media rounds for that, he had said he was working on a second solo album. There have been no updates to that effect recently. However, when he did media for the 2019 Blink 182 album 9 and was asked about side projects like that, he did say he has a rock album coming out with rapper Trippie Redd sometime soon. That was actually someone who I just got put onto when I was doing like my, sorry to the person who said I mentioned the Raptors too much on this podcast, but when I was doing like the year-end mixtape with the Raptors, Trippie Redd came up a couple times. I was not familiar. Checked it out. I think that could be...
I have not heard of Trippie Redd.
Yeah, I think it could be pretty good. It kind of fits with this, somewhere between this and his EP with Yellow Wolf. I'm sure it'll be better than the one with Asher Roth. As much as I liked Asher Roth for a quick minute when it was like, oh, white guy rapping about white guy things in college. Cool. Where would you put this album relative to Plus 44, Boxcar, and Angels and Airwaves? Like, obviously, it's a completely different
I mean,
thing.
it's definitely more interesting than any of those projects. Like, I think, like, when you listen to Boxcar, you listen to Plus 44, listen to Angels and Airwaves, it's like, okay, this is just an extension of Mark and Tom. And, like, yeah, Travis is on two of them, but even on Boxcar, he's hitting the drums hard, but he's not really doing, like, his interesting hip-hop influenced Travis drumming. And even on Plus 44, he's doing like some 16th notes a couple times, but it's more...
Even though he did a bunch more writing on Plus 44 than he did Boxcar, where Boxcar, Tom just kind of tagged him in.
Yeah. So I think obviously just by the nature of the project, this is way more interesting than those. In going back and like listening to all of them and talking about them, I'm not sure any of the Blink side projects are particularly successful,
right?
So to speak, not from a commercial standpoint, but just from a like what they were setting out to do. I understand their sort of importance to the story of Blink and to these guys, and like, you know, do your passion projects. Not saying like they shouldn't have done this or anything. But I will say I think I respect this one more.
He just fucking went for it.
Yeah. Plus 44 was like, it was very much Mark sort of falling back into his Markisms.
Right. He tried to extend himself and then had reined himself back in to where he was comfortable.
Angels is the opposite of that, not necessarily to a positive effect. And this is like, I respect a guy like Travis being like, hey, I have all these other interests also. And now you're going to hear him.
Yeah, it's great. And I think when we decided to do this episode, which by the way was part of the pitch when we pitched this podcast, Blink Month, including this Travis Barker solo album, was a part of the pitch, and it was an episode I was really excited to get to eventually. I didn't know that we would actually do it. I was a little worried that I would go back and not like it as much. Obviously, it's like you said earlier, it's very 2011. However, I still think the songs that I liked when it came out, and I play this album a lot because I was listening to a lot more hip hop around that time. I like it still.
Yeah, and
especially the highs.
And I think it's really easy to go into talking about this album with like an ironic sort of like, oh, Travis Barker hip hop album perspective. And I get that, but I think that it works a lot better as a hip hop album itself than maybe it has any right to.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that I think Travis Barker should quit playing pop punk and go become a hip hop producer. But like if he did, I don't think it would be that bad.
The interesting question would be if he were to do a hip hop album, you know, and he's done some EPs, like I said, with Yellow Wolf and other artists, and those have a more consistent sound to them. Could he do a full length album that has a more consistent sound? Because this one is really cool, and the fact that it's really all over the place really highlights what Travis was going for and what you need to know about him as a drummer and producer. It's probably different to do 2 or 3 songs of each genre to do a whole album of that genre. And I'm kind of interested to see, like, if this Trippie Redd project is a full like rap rock album instead of just an EP or something like that. I'm really curious to hear what it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, like, to put it another way, like, whether or not I like it or not is kind of separate to the question.
Mm-hmm.
I would at least check it out and give it a try.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I'm not that interested in a new Angels and Airwaves.
I have no interest in listening.
That's
to them
but that's what I mean. Like, that doesn't seem like an interesting thing. Where with this, even if it ends up not being my thing, which like I'm not a huge hip hop guy, so like there is absolutely a chance.
Yeah,
it's
I
not
have a
my-
little bit more of that still
For sure.
than you do. Yeah.
but like I'm at least gonna check it out and at least gonna see what his like what he can bring to it and what
Who's
is
this Trippy Red? I'll find out. All right. Favorite songs on the album. We can just throw a couple out there. Mostly for people who might be curious and want to pull a few tracks from this.
Yeah, I would say I really like the Pharrell Lupe track.
Okay.
I think it's really fun. As you said, it's absolutely a Pharrell track, but it's kind of fun.
But Lupe rules too.
Yeah, and Lupe's really good. The Carry It track with RZA is, I think, probably the out and out best song on the
Yeah,
record.
that's my favorite one on the record.
Which is probably not a coincidence that it's RZA and Raekwon doing it. I quite like the other Kid Cudi track.
me too.
Cool Head.
Cool Head, yeah.
And I really like.
I loved that era of Kid Cudi.
Yeah,
So
and I really like the Cypress Hill closer as well. Beat goes on.
the two I'd add to that is I really like the opening track, Can a Drummer Get Some? Because it just kind of takes me back.
Yeah.
The Lil Wayne verse is just like, it's like, man, I really was in my early 20s trying to pivot to being a hip hop guy instead of a pop punk guy for a couple years there. The opposite of what Lil Wayne was doing.
My only concern with Can the Drummer Get Some is it veers real close to sounding like Rollin' by Limp Bizkit,
Yeah.
which is not necessarily a bad thing.
I also like Jump Down with the Cool Kids.
Yeah.
Again, Cool Kids are great. It's kind of in that same Lupe vibe. When I first listened to the album back, when Let's Go came on, I was like, you know what? The nostalgia factor here is good. And then I listened to it a second time. I was like, I don't need to hear the song for another 9 years.
Yeah.
It's fine. All right. The song for the mixtape. I think we're probably on the same page.
Yeah, I
here.
think same as last week. If there's a clear number one for both of us, I think that's one we go with.
Carry It.
Yeah.
Man. RZA making his way onto the Columbia House Party
Of course he is.
mixtape. Of course he is. I think that's pretty much it, right?
You know, I think this is a really cool episode for us and for me because, like, as I said, historically, I'm not a huge hip hop guy. There are hip hop acts I like, and like, I don't want to sound too much like a fucking shitty white hipster where it's like, I'm not a hip hop fan, because that's not true. It's just never the genre I go to immediately. If there's something I like, I'll listen to it. But
It's also where my hip hop tastes have gone are not really with this type of hip hop.
Right.
Now, like it's, you know,
Lil-
not
the
that.
Lil Peep sort of SoundCloud
I mean,
stuff.
yeah. And then outside of that, it's like, you know who would actually kill one of these songs is probably Danny Brown would kill one of these songs. I don't know if like a Earl Sweatshirt would fit on there. And like Earl Sweatshirt, Vince Staples, like that's kind of where
Yeah.
my taste has gone. I'm sure Kendrick could. I mean, Kendrick did a remix with Imagine Dragons. He could do a song with
And like
some
made
drums on
made
it.
it kind of okay.
Yeah, the SNL performance.
Yeah, it was pretty good. But no, I feel like this is kind of educational for me in a way. Because like, I remember hearing the Can the Drummer Get Some song in 2011 and where my tastes were and my attitudes were. I was like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
So it was fun to kind of go back to it and be like, no, this is actually kind of fun.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to this. We'll talk to you next week.
Oh, hey, please try the fish.